Everyone, welcome. I know it's been a while since I posted, and I will say that the rumors of my death were greatly exaggerated. I have developed an allergy, I think, to looking at monitors. I've just felt this remarkable repulsion to staring at screens. And although my phone still grabs my attention more than I would like, actually sitting in front of a monitor, especially when the weather is nice outside or there's something else that I could be doing, has become very, very challenging for me. I would say that if it's become challenging for you too, that's probably a really good sign, because it probably means that your vibration is moving higher and you're becoming more human again. Remarkably, there are two forces at play that are affecting humanity, and one of them desires us to be more human and living from our heart. The other one wants us more digital and digitized. And I will talk about it a little bit more in this video, and I'll give you a sense of what I want to go through in just a moment. But I will say, just generally, I know that these are trepidatious times. They have been frightening for a lot of people, and my heart goes out to those who have been affected by what's gone on in Hawaii recently, what's been going on in British Columbia. I can tell you that these are not random events, and these are not acts of nature. Okay, what we are witnessing really is as bad as what many feel and speculate them to be. And with that said, you can get through these times just fine. It is even possible that you can thrive during these very difficult and unpredictable times. You can. And so the whole purpose of this video is just to increase your confidence or understanding perhaps of a little bit of what's unfolding on the planet as best as I have the ability to share. And then, as always, throw out a few ideas which may resonate with you that you can implement to help navigate your daily life a little bit more seamlessly in accordance with some of the external or exogenous events which may otherwise come up right to your doorstep. Okay, so with that said, there are two forces at play here in this realm. At some level, all is of God, all is one. And actually, once you drop the body, when your incarnation comes to an end, the oneness comes flushing, it comes washing back over you. You feel that reconnected self. But while we're in this realm, we experience duality. And that duality actually is not just the hot and cold, up and down scenarios that you hear so often in the spiritual space. The duality is actually two sources which have dropped in incarnates that have completely diametrically opposed objectives. I know we all look human, although some of us don't even look human, but in general, we all look human. But there are different sources of incarnates here on planet and in planet. This planet is also being influenced tremendously by off-planet forces. And then most devastatingly, we are subjected to interdimensional forces, sometimes referred to as negative entities, demonic forces. This basic conversation runs through mythology, it runs through religion, it runs through spiritual discussions and understanding. It is so deeply entrenched in human evolution. And yet, for the last few generations in particular, the force that doesn't benefit from you understanding this has gone to incredible lengths to manipulate your consciousness into thinking it's not real. I can tell you from personal experience, it is so real, it's unbelievable. And when you start to see how these different forces are playing out in every moment of our lives, and how virtually everything you've been told has been a lie because it's been orienting from a force that does not have access to truth and integrity, does not desire to live in that space, but rather just desires to access their own selfish objectives, you will start to see why the world is being run by criminals, why we cannot trust virtually any in the political space with only a few exceptions, and why most of what we are being subjected to through our screens is nothing more than a form of manipulation, distraction, or in many ways, a dumbing down of your psyche. So, with that said, I will share that what's so remarkable about these times is that it's not because you or me or humanity desires things to change that things are changing, but rather it's Mother Gaia, in conjunction with the other planets of the solar system and being supported by the sun. And apparently there are two suns, which we're going to come to find out is true in the next few generations. But beyond that, the stars and other forces within our galaxy are actively supporting Mother Gaia's intentions of moving to a higher vibrational sphere. That's sometimes referred to as the ascension. It's referred to as third density going to fourth density. It's referred to as 3D to 5D. It doesn't matter. All that it's saying is that the veil, which is this veil of forgetting, is thinning. The vibration of the planet is moving higher. And either you are on board with that ascension or you're not. If you're on board with that ascension, your consciousness has begun to expand tremendously and you are seeing things clearly for what they are like you have never seen before. The corruption is being laid bare and you are saying no on a regular basis to the participation in all the bullshit that's being dumped upon you. If, however, your consciousness has not expanded and you are not on that frequency, the events of the last few years, although perhaps heavy-handed, were necessary to move through a difficult time. And although there may be problems in the media and the politics, everybody's doing the best they can. That's generally your way of thinking. And insofar as that's your way of thinking, you are happy to participate in an experimental medication 5 or 6 or 7 times. And of course, you were happy to put something over your face every time you walked out of your home or even when you're in your home and driving your car. All of that made good sense to you. And in general, for the most part, depending on where your conscious is now, that still generally makes sense to you. Okay? If you happen to fall in that end of the spectrum, there's a very good chance that you are quite vulnerable to the unfortunateness that is unfolding on the planet. And many, just like yourself, have since departed because of their vulnerabilities. You have my compassion. For those of you that are moving down the path of an awakening, you're actively experiencing the raising of the vibration of the planetary sphere, and you are moving along with it. And the more you monitor your own vibration, which is to say accessing of the heart space, finding compassion and love in the moment, existing in a state of joy, which is peaceful and balanced and harmonious as much as you can. It's not always easy, especially in the company of those who don't quite get it yet. But the more that you are ultimately on the we frequency, thinking of humanity as a collective and desiring to care for those who come into your space however they arrive, this vibration is the vibration that will pull you forward. And when you arrive wherever humanity intends to arrive, it will be a very beautiful, positive future. We just have to go through this disturbance to get there. Okay, so in summary, there are 2 forces that are working on us at all times, pulling in different directions. As the vibration of the planet moves higher, only one force will remain dominant. For most of mankind's modern existence, it has been a low vibrational force which is oriented around control and enslavement that has been dominant and has been more and more pervasive as time has gone by. For the last decade or 12 years or so, the vibration of the planet has started to shift, and in conjunction with the will of the infinite creator and the planetary spheres around us, Mother Gaia is moving to a higher vibrational place. Those of us that are in accordance with this frequency, in alignment, will feel that pulling, and the most beautiful things are possible. All the while, the forces that have the most to lose will fight tooth and nail to prevent it from happening. And in conjunction with interdimensional forces, they will try to infiltrate your consciousness with every tool that they've got to prevent you from being supportive of that planetary ascension. If some or all of that made sense, then kudos, you're doing really, really well. If none of that made sense, that's still okay. Just hang out with me a little bit longer because I'm going to go through some of the tips to navigating this era well. I will also share, in a moment of pure and complete humility, my predictions thus far have been mostly wrong. Okay, so The things that I got right were oriented around the vibration that I was feeling when things were unfolding, right? So when we were put in lockdown, for example, I could feel that there was going to be some singular solution that we all had to participate in. And when that singular solution arrived, I could feel in my heart of hearts that it needed to be avoided at all costs, even if it meant I couldn't go out to restaurants or travel or all the billion different restrictions that they were placing upon us for non-compliance. So I've had things right as it relates to the vibrational or the feelings that I've been receiving. I have not been able to predict the future very well. I actually thought that things would have unfolded more dramatically than they did at this point. I do believe that we're entering in the hard years now. I do believe that the next 3 or 4 years will be far more difficult than the past 3 or 4 years. But I also say that hoping to be wrong. I truly hope that the consciousness expands so quickly that more and more people awaken and just invoke the power of no, and this thing just comes to an end. And we stop listening to all the bullshit that's being peppered upon us in all the different ways. And those asleep, they remain asleep, but are no longer ultimately a hindrance to the ascension. That would be my desire. I don't see that happening, but I hope that I'm wrong in my prediction, and I hope that better things come. In the event that those better things don't come for a number of years further, and keep in mind that those that are on this me frequency, which is the service to self frequency, they've set an agenda timeline of 2030. So they need to achieve by 2030 a real full control and lockdown of humanity. It's trying to keep you in your homes, or trying to keep you in your defined location. It's trying to lower to your carbon footprint to almost nothing. It's trying to restrict the type of foods that you eat. It's always going to blame it on the environment or the needs to preserve the environment. The very same people who tell you that you can't fly, they take their private jets somewhere to Switzerland so they can talk about owning everything while you own nothing to be happy. It's those sort of people and that sort of consciousness that is ultimately leaving. And by the time it leaves, however, there will be great destruction, I believe, because they will try to either lock us down further with the systems that they will deliberately collapse to rebuild more restrictively, or the forces of good that are pulling the planet into an ascended place will naturally start to cause great disturbances or disruptions in those control systems which haven't been serving us for a long time anyways. Either way you look at it, or the way I see it, is that there's great disturbances coming. And so insofar as you can prepare yourself or position yourself well, then that's the best thing that you can do. So the first and foremost, most important thing is be joyous when joy is available. Find that joy and the love in the moment. Also, a lot of self-care, patience, time for yourself. It's incredibly important just to decompress and distract yourself from some of the heaviness that may be going on, especially that which you have no control over, which is unfolding. I will also say that less reliance on systems, communication system, food system, educational system, financial system, the less and less reliant you are on these systems, the more buffered you'll be, the more space you'll have if something should go wrong and these systems go offline. So, for example, quite simply, for those of you that have a backyard or extra space, consider planting your own garden. Like seriously, it's not that hard to do. And for most, depending on where you live, you could be cultivating crops 5, 6, 7, if you're in the South, 10, 12 months out of the year. It's a nice practice to get into, and it could really help should the food supply, for example, go through a disruption. Those of you that have children in school, many have already considered homeschooling. It's one less system, the educational system, one less system to be reliant on. Many of you have started to look into natural remedies, moving away from the pharmaceutical industry, moving away from the healthcare industry. There are so many different ways to care for the body that don't involve injecting chemicals. And the more you shift your consciousness around aligning your physical well-being with nature's path and principles, the less vulnerable you'll be should illness come into your space. You'll just be stronger, more resilient, and have different remedies that work. And keep in mind that for all these ailments that are coming to us, nature provides a solution. It is always available to you. It's heavily censored, but it's always available to you should you seek it out. We're so connected right now. As long as you're on the right frequency, the right resources will come to you and help you navigate these times. And then finally, I wanted to share that many of you have gifts. I've spoken to some of you personally. I know some of the people that follow this channel. Many of you have beautiful gifts, and many of you have noticed that over the last 3 or 4 years, those gifts have really blossomed. So whether it's mediumship or clairaudience or channeling, clairvoyance or sentience, those gifts will only get stronger as the planet's vibration moves higher and your vibration moves higher with it. Joyously cultivate those gifts, but see them for what they are. They are gifts that are intended to help move you along a path of joy. If for some reason those gifts are not joyous, then let them go. You don't have to work with them. But in general, recognize them for what they are. They're part of the incarnation path. All humans have access to telepathy, but the planet's vibration has been so low that we haven't been able to activate it properly. These next few years, you're going to see quite a bit of activation of telepathy. And so should that come online for you, for example, work with it, practice it, enjoy it. It is an amazing thing to experience, actually. It's almost as if somebody's talking to you, but they could be thousands of miles away, and yet you hear them. It's really quite impressive. Finally, for those that are not emanating the same vibration that you are, there's going to be a lot of breakdowns. There already have been in relationships, friendships, family relationships. There was a time when family members were actively told to discriminate against other family members if they didn't participate in medical experimentation. And incredibly, a lot of people did that. Sorry, Uncle Jimmy, you can't come for Thanksgiving this year. You didn't participate. A lot of that madness will unfortunately continue. And many of those relationships, remarkably, for those of you that are moving down this path of greater consciousness, those relationships are not serving you, and they have not been serving you for some time. And by virtue of you intertwining your vibration in their company, so with their vibration, the auric bodies collide within 10 feet of proximity, there's a very good chance that it's in your highest and greatest good to divest of those friendships or relationships, as difficult as that may seem, and it will leave a void. I will say that even those that you feel profoundly connected with, some of those relationships come under too much strain because of the difficulty of these times, and those relationships will not survive either. Oftentimes because they've actually fulfilled that which is intended to offer you from the relationship. It's been satisfied. Whatever it is, the best that you can do is monitor your vibration. If you say or do something that can be hurtful, for example, seek forgiveness. And then ultimately, when the time comes that those relationships are beyond repair, let them go. Just let them go. New relationships will show themselves. And those that are moving down this path, that are moving in alignment with the ascension of the planet, will be pulling together more and more. Micro-communities are popping up all over. I know of a handful of them not far from us. They didn't exist a few years ago. They are popping up all over. And it is people that are on a resonance frequency that are being called together. So, with all that said, navigate these times well. You can move through the ascension just fine. There will be voices that will keep popping up from all corners of the planet whose own vibration has moved so high that the wisdom is moving through them and they desire to share it with you as well. Feel into it. Check in with how you feel during and after a video, for example, or how you feel when you're in their company. And if it doesn't feel right, let it go. The sensing, knowing, feeling, intuitive self is your way forward. The mind is mostly a distraction. Mostly a distraction. It's a receptacle that collects more information than it needs to. And it can be easily infiltrated by low vibrational forces, many of which are now being squeezed off this planetary sphere and are going ballistic to try to stay. They've never been more potent than they are right now, those interdimensional forces. So do your best. Stay positive, keep the right company, move deeper into your faith. and all will be well. All right, gang. Again, apologies for the delay in posting something, but here I am, and I hope it's of value as always. I send you much love and light, and we'll speak again at some point, I'm sure.